SVC Media.
Welcome to the iGaming Daily Podcast, analysing the news from the betting and gaming industry all over the globe, supported by Optimove, the #1 CRM marketing solution for the iGaming market.
Avid listeners of the iGaming Daily Podcast would have been teased the start of our CRM-focused podcast with Optimove CEO Pini Yakuel. And today, we'll see the start of this series. We are on the first episode today, and today's episode of iGaming Daily, we're going to actually start off breaking down Optimove's 2023 year-end letter to the stakeholders, as it provides you and us a clear view on the current landscape of customer relationship management, or CRM for short, marketing, and a potential vision for the near future. And then in the latter half of the show, we'll also address a LinkedIn post from Pini regarding, and I believe this is right, Israel Airlines, or I would say Israel Airlines, and kind of a look into Optimove's upcoming conference. But first off, I've spoken a bit too much in this introduction. So first off, Pini, welcome back to the iGaming Daily Podcast. Have you been up to much since we last spoke?
Hey, James, thanks for having me. It's really great to be here again. I've been awesome. I've actually started the boxing as a new form of exercise.
Nice. I used to do a bit of boxing. Yeah, I used to do it was something called white collar boxing. It was for charity. So you train for like 8 weeks. We had Ricky Hatton's old trainer training us. And then we did a three round sparring event.
Oh, wow.
In the evening. It was cool.
Who's your favorite?
Oh, so I actually don't like a lot of the modern day boxers. I despise Tyson Fury. Being a Mancunian, that's probably blasphemy. But actually, all-time favorite has to be Joe Calzaghe.
Wow, awesome.
Yeah, he was a legend of the sport. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of old and new, and I like Canelo a lot these days.
Yeah, okay, he's a beast, to say the least. But he's good. I tell you what I've been doing actually since we last spoke. Do you ever do fantasy football?
I work with people that do, but I don't do it myself.
Yeah, so I've been obsessed with this year because me and my mates made a little pool for this season, so I'm a bit more invested in it because money's on the line. And this week, because it's the Premier League fantasy football, and this week saw a double game week for Manchester City and Liverpool, and because I've got a 14-month-old child, I'd completely forgot that I was going to set a triple captain for Erling Haaland to get obviously the triple points. So all week I've been watching the games. Just hope, and all my mates triple captained, and I was hoping all week. I was just watching like, oh, please, Haaland, do not score. And then against Chelsea, he missed about 5 or 6 glorious chances, didn't score, and then he scored one last night. So I was over the moon. I was just messaging my mates like, oh, what a waste of your triple captain, you ruined it. Oh, so that's how I've been. I was in a state of panic when I didn't triple captain Haaland, and now I'm in a state of euphoria when it came out to be the worst decision anyone could make.
That's awesome.
The joys of fantasy football. But we you know what, I could talk about fantasy football all day, but we are going to talk a bit more about, like I said, your end of your year letter to the stakeholders, along with the LinkedIn post you said and the conference that you're coming up. But before we kind of delve into that, I normally do where I do the Optimove host read ad for our listeners. But with you here, Pini, I thought we'll do something a bit more fun maybe. So I'm going to ask you who the #1 CRM marketing solution for the iGaming market is.
I would hope it's Optimove, and I believe it's Optimove. Obviously, Optimove.
Obviously, Optimove.
I tried a few flavors of personality, right? Modest one, cocky one, all types. I don't know which one I really am.
Stick with cocky works. And what's the percentage of EGR Power 50 that personalized player experiences with Optimove?
So it's 56% of EGR.
Yeah, of course you know that. And as a special offer, what are Optimove offering new clients?
First month of subscription for free.
Perfect, yeah. And for any listener out there who wants to claim that free first month, go to optimove.com/SBC. We'll also include any links in the episode description below. That was a bit of fun. It's a bit different to what we usually do, so I like that. But yeah, kind of let's jump into the topic at hand. And I think, obviously, with your end of year letter, you kind of provide an overview of the current state of CRM marketing strategy. Can you just inform our listeners of what that overview is?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I think it's also like for people who like business in general, I think this exercise of writing an end of year letter to basically the stakeholders of Optimove, which means, clients, partners, employees, investors, our entire ecosystem. That was a really fun exercise for me, and something very, something very deep that I felt that we did this year. I was inspired by the likes of Warren Buffett and Jeff Bezos, and I actually read the Warren Buffett letter for the end of 2022, because while I did that, the one for 23 wasn't released yet. And it was like really, I felt I spoke to, people around, and I said, look, his letter is just like business poetry, like so much wisdom in such a concise, succinct fashion is something that, and of course he's 93 and considered to be the greatest investor humanity has ever seen. But there's so many cool insight there, something specific that I liked a lot. He says that basically throughout his entire career, most of the yield and most of the return only stems from about a dozen decisions. That's it. So you're talking about hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of investment decisions, and about a dozen is what actually made him, the vast majority of the money. Mm-hmm. Think about that for a second.
Yeah, I would never have thought it was only that small portions, considering how many decisions are actually made.
And and another thing I really liked about what he said was that he's basically saying where he chooses who to invest in when he buys companies completely and chooses or appoints the CEO or the executive team. He basically emphasizes trust to the most extreme. So you would think, hey, there's so many traits that you can think about, right? You want to choose a CEO that's the most creative, the most, the smartest, has the deepest insight on the market that person operates in. You can think about many traits that you would choose, but he emphasizes trust. And he says that long term, this is what predicts the best yield on an investment. Which is interesting. Again, it makes you think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but kind of part of your open letter, you mentioned that in 2023, Optimove witnessed kind of a significant shift from rules-based marketing to AI mapped journeys.
Precisely.
Yeah. Can you just explain to our listeners what that is, and explain to me as well, because I'm quite a novice to this area, for sure, and how it came about and what it means moving forward.
For sure. So. When I describe the state of CRM marketing, I'm actually looking back to my early beginnings. It was around 2009, 2008, when, we actually started as a data mining agency. We didn't even have a product. But, the fundamentals of CRM marketing is essentially what you need to do is you need to produce a campaign. So you need to produce something that will ultimately engage with your clients, and you want to do it on a one-to-one basis, right? So let's say if marketing, which is not one-to-one or not personalized, is like a TV ad, right? You don't know who's going to see it. Just like, even this podcast, right? I don't know exactly who's going to listen to it, right? Some people may listen to it, some may not. Mm-hmm. And, but
everyone listens to
it. But I do believe in this form of marketing. That's why we're sitting here today. But essentially, this is all of the classic above-the-line marketing, right? So the ads, think Don Draper, think billboards, think radio, think TV, all of those things. When databases were born and people started to track what their customers are doing, customers started to provide information, like a little bit of information about themselves, how they engage with the brand. So what games they play, this guy likes roulette, the other guy likes Man United, that person bets on tennis. You got all of a sudden you can see behaviors from your customers in the database. And then you're saying, okay, great. I can look at the database and I can start to tailor experiences. I can think about specific messages that I'm going to send to people. And those messages would be personalized. Those messages would be very engaging because they'll be relevant, right? So if you think back, there's a famous saying by, I think it was Peter Drucker. Peter Drucker is like an American business savant, in many ways the father of modern marketing. And he said, it's a famous saying, 50% of the money I spend on marketing is a waste. I just don't know which half is it. So the reason I'm saying it is because the existence of CRM marketing or one-to-one marketing, or even in the past, people used to call it database marketing. So the reason I'm saying it, because in that realm, you can actually know if something is a waste or not, right? You're now targeting customers that you understand. You can treat it as an experiment. And usually what people did, there's you need to produce something, right? So you're saying, okay, great. I'm going to find some customers in the database. I got 5,000 VIPs. I'm going to invite my VIPs to a special event to help thank them for the business they're giving me, right? So you find the list, you're saying I'm going to send them a letter, a physical letter, right? So, or digital email or an SMS or whatever. So you need to produce this whole thing. You need to get the copy, the design, you write the letter, you put the pictures in the letter, you phrase the copy, you say what you want to say, you argue a little bit with your peers, you come up with the final version, and then you push it out, whether it's through email or post or, again, SMS. Today you have, mobile push, in-app, website, so many channels, right? But the fundamentals, these were the fundamentals, right? That's how you did it. And if you think about this process, this end-to-end process of, finding the segment or the audience, choosing the channel, producing the content, running this whole thing, executing it, then analyzing it, understanding whether it worked or not. That process is a pretty laborious process. So in the past, what people did is they didn't do a lot of them. They did some of them, right? You would have your whatever Christmas campaign, or your, of course, during the World Cup or Euros, or major events on the Premier League or whatever. You would do a lot of these campaigns. In many cases, you would send the campaign to your entire database, because you said, "Oh my God, I got email addresses, so I'm just going to hit my entire database with the same thing." We call it batch and blast, right? You just batch everybody in and you blast the message.
I like that.
Yeah. So there's another one which is a bit more facetious. It's like spray and pray, right? So you basically, it's the same thing, right? Spray and pray.
Okay.
In any case, or some people will call it you're spamming people, whatever, right? But you would do it. It was not too personalized. It was very laborious to produce. And you would do one like this, once a month or once in 2 months, or depends, right? Depends on the brand, depends on the company. So now think about what needs to happen if you want to produce hundreds of these every week, right? So you want to go from something we used to say a lot, is like go from tens to hundreds of segments, right? So let's say, because you want to provide players with a very personalized experience, right? So you don't care about everything. I have a lot of things to say about casino. You don't care about that. It doesn't interest you one bit. But as you told all of us, right, fantasy sports interests you a lot, right? You said at the beginning.
Yeah.
And you like the Premier League football. And I forgot your team. It's Man United, I think you told me last time. Yeah. Right? There you go. So, and your team's Man United, right? So I already know a few things about you, James, that would allow me to tailor the marketing I'm gonna do for you. Very different than the marketing you're gonna do for me, Pini, right? I'm into American sports, right? I like NBA as an example, or NFL, right? That's what I like. So think about that. And now, if I'm producing hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of those, micro campaigns, essentially every player feels like they're the entire world for me, for the brand. The brand only thinks about them because we're giving them something personalized, right? So the promise of personalization is a promise of essentially a promise of delight and a promise of relevancy, right? Relevant marketing works better. It's very simple, right? If you show me, go back to Peter Drucker, right? If 50% of it is a waste, why is it a waste? Because you're showing you're showing my grandmother, an ad for on TV, right? She watches TV and she sees an ad for, lifting weights. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's not lifting weights, right? So, but that's what you're showing me an ad for a tampon, right? I'm not going to buy a tampon anytime soon. So these types of, obviously that's the waste. That's the 50% of the waste, right? Yeah. You wasted good eyeballs for that. So obviously you can do it in TV, but you can do it with digital marketing, CRM marketing, personalized marketing, retention marketing. I'm saying all of these names repeatedly so people understand it's all the same thing, right? Engagement marketing, it's all the same thing. So, okay, so we said you need to produce a campaign, and we said you need to, and now in the modern age, right, you have better databases, more data coming in real time, data coming in, with lots of history and rich context. You got more channels, right? You got, as we just mentioned before, 5 or 6 different communication channels. Your customers are everywhere. You want to talk to them all over those channels. You want to be consistent across the channels, right? So you don't want to say one thing on email and then say something completely different on the web, or, you want to be, your message needs to be symmetric. So you want to start to achieve all of those things. So how can I, produce hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of segments, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of campaigns across 5, 6, 7, 8 different channels in real time, right? On a scheduled basis, while a match is happening. And more examples like that to ultimately delight my customers in a way that will make them choose my brand again and again, because they're like, oh my God, it's so great to do business with this brand, right? This brand gets me. They understand me, right? They're smart. You know what? I want to keep on. And of course you need to like the product and other things that are not related to marketing, but that's the holy grail, right? That's the promise. And when you do it well, we saw some of our customers increase the lifetime value of their customers by 33%, like insane numbers like that when they do it really well. Mm-hmm. So now what's the problem with everything I said? It's really hard to do. That's the problem. So why is that? Another thing I like to think about, if you think about personalization in general, I'm going to take a little bit of a tangent. So the Henry Ford T model assembly line, when you talk about history of cars, right? So in the U.S., Henry Ford, the founder of Ford Motors, basically, mass manufactured the first car, which was called the Ford T model, and not the first car, but the first car, I think, being mass manufactured. Yeah. And he had a saying that he said, and it was like an assembly line, right? So car starts on the beginning of the assembly line. When the car finishes the assembly line, you actually have a car, right? At the beginning, maybe you have some wheels, and the car moves between different stations until it gets to the end, and you have a car. And he used to say, you can paint it any color you want as long as it's black. So what he meant is like, get the F out of my face. It's going to be black. I'm not offering the car different colors because I'm doing mass production and I can't. It's hard. It's expensive. It's 1929 or I don't know what the year was, right? But it was before World War II, I think. So he was basically saying something that stemmed from an operational fact, which is this thing is damn hard. In cars, you got the mix, I think it's called the mixed assembly line or something like that, or the complex assembly line, where you can get leather seats and and a yellow wheel, yellow rims and a green wheel, and with the sunroof, without a sun, like. You can all of a sudden, yes, you can definitely achieve personalization in cars, in the modern assembly line, and that happens. So it's pretty analogous, right? It's really hard to produce personalization. Personalization requires production. It requires a lot of production. Now, and now we get to the state of CRM marketing. So the current state is that we do it better than we did before. When I say we, I'm talking about humanity, not Optimove. I think we have something to say here, and I think we do it in a more novel manner. But 90% of vendors in the world and 90% of marketers in the world, essentially what they do, they solve this problem with automation. This was the marketing automation revolution. Silicon Valley companies started there. Everything you can do, I can automate, right? Instead of I can do better, no, I can automate, right? So automation came about, and that meant that, marketers are able to set rules. They can say, for customers like this, if they deposit, then send them this message. Wait 2 days and see if they play this game. If they did, send them that message. Wait an hour. If something happened here, don't do anything. If they, whatever, you get my point, right? So it becomes like a flow chart of different rules, and essentially it's rule-based marketing. The marketer sits in a room and plots the journey, the message journey that many customers are going to go through. And this journey is being plotted by many marketers. And there's a lot of comfort in that approach because you can understand exactly the experience that all your customers will go through. Mm-hmm. That's also the problem, that all customers go through the same journey exactly. But all your customers are going through this journey, which is made out of those, splits and rules and if this, then that, and if that, then this, right? So there's a few of those, right? And typically, many systems would have, most systems on the planet don't have a lot of data in them. Typically, there's a lot of dependency in internal IT departments within the operator. They need to push. And all of the burden is on them. With Optimove, typically, we just connect to the raw form of the data, and then we take the responsibility of enriching that data and making it something that the marketer can actually build more sophisticated rules. But innately, the rule-based approach to marketing is the problem, and this is basically what has been preventing marketers to achieve scale, mm-hmm. prevented them from getting to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of segments, prevented them from providing a highly personalized experience to their players. And for that reason, marketing or CRM marketing stayed in a state of subpar. It was, it's definitely a delighter in some cases. Obviously, it depends on the company. Some people have more talented people working for them. Some people have less talented people working for them. Some people have better raw data. Some people have better IT departments. Some people have better promotions capabilities. There's a lot of factors that ultimately determine if you do really well or not, but a revolution is still required because this rule-based fashion, this rigid fashion of the way marketing works, which is, automated, but let's call it automation without orchestration. And we always say that automation without orchestration eventually leads to chaos. Mm-hmm. So what's the problem? The problem is that you are, and I'll tell a story about that. Why is it so problematic? When I was in 2016, I moved to New York to open the Optimove US office. So I took my entire family. I had one child at the time, and he was 1 year and a half. And we moved to Brooklyn. Mm-hmm. And after 2 weeks, we want to go to the beach. So, but he told me you got this thing called Zipcar, right? So you can rent a car. Obviously, I'm in Manhattan. I'm in Brooklyn. I'm in America. I don't have a car at this point. You got the subway, and you don't have anywhere to park it. So I don't have a car, right? So you can get a Zipcar. So I rent a Zipcar. I go to the lot. The car's not there. I call the call center, super upset. They tell me go to the other lot. I go to the other lot. The car is not there as well. After I walk 20 minutes in the sun, mm-hmm. really pissed. I call the call center again, 30 minutes of arguments and being upset. Eventually I didn't go. I go back home, sad, spend the afternoon at the park, really sad I didn't go to the beach. Okay, fine. That's the story. What happens from a marketing perspective? They saw me make the first order. So there was a journey that said, he made an order for today. Tomorrow, we're going to send him an email that says, and that's the email I got the next day. Pini, how was your first ride? The first one is always the one to remember, and offering me something else, right? So that's what we call a broken journey, because it's impossible for the marketer to plot out all the different permutations and all the different journeys that an individual like Pini could go through. In my case, I had a horrible experience. I called the call center. They could have seen it in the data, but the marketer just plotted one type of a journey, one rigid version of a journey that wasn't a fit for me. It was a fit for people who got their car and actually did the ride. So I'm saying all of that just to say that there's the problem is, and the reason it doesn't scale is because you have so many collisions. If you're doing a lot of marketing, and you want to go to hundreds and hundreds of campaigns, what happens is it starts to collide, right? So customers are getting conflicting messages. They're getting lots of different messages that, are not a match. And also some of the messages don't reflect what the customer wants to get at that very point in time. Mm-hmm. So we take an approach that's different, and our approach is something that you can call it, if we use an airport analogy. So we are kind of like air traffic control. So we are looking at, we're saying to the marketer, hey, Mr. Marketer, you can have as many ideas that you want. You can push into production as many campaigns, as many segments, as many things that you want. Push all of them in. Let them compete once against the other. Let them, let them just be there. And we have a master orchestrator. And instead of having a rule-based journey, we're going to have an AI mapped journey. So what does that mean? The orchestrator, right? Or if you want to use American football analogy, is like a quarterback or air traffic control, or there's many ways, or a conductor in the orchestra. It's all the same thing. Essentially what you do is you look at James. You're saying, okay, James has 5 different messages that marketing wants to send him. We want to talk to you about the Man United game. We want to offer you something with the fantasy sports. And we're actually seeing that you have a potential of becoming a VIP. You look like in our predictive model, we see that you have a young VIP potential. So we want to send you a message about that. So we have 3 different messages. What do you do? Are we going to send just one of them? If so, which one? Are we going to send 2 of the 3? Now you have an optimization problem. But if you have an orchestrator that can take that decision in real time based on the data coming in from James, historical data and real-time data, then you're solving the problem completely differently. You are plotting the journeys, generic journeys for the business. You're plotting, you're creating individual campaigns, but ultimately you put all of them into this calculation method that calculates in near real time, always looks at the data, looks at James as an individual, looks at all the ideas that came from marketing, and then what we do is basically a smart mix and match.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Wow. I was talking for a long time, so I'm going to shut up.
No, I was going to say, like, I didn't expect that in-depth of an answer. I mean, it's a brilliant response, and it was educational for me, and for the listeners as well. But what it has done is, we've kind of already gone over kind of the time allocation for this episode. So what we are going to do, I know we did promise a 2-half episode, but if Pini, if you're happy with this, we could do a follow-on episode of this, of kind of some of the other questions we were going to ask, if you're happy to do that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, perfect. So just, I'll round off this podcast, just asking actually about your conference that Optimove are hosting in March. Just for clarity again for the listeners, we'll do a follow-on episode where we'll talk about Pini's LinkedIn post. We're going to talk about kind of Optimove's highlights of their growth in 2023 and kind of what we envisage CRM marketing for the next 12 months. That'll be in the next episode. I promise you we will cover that. But just to round off this one, Optimove Connect, March. Can you just give us an overview of that event and what attendees can expect?
Yeah, for sure. So it's the first time we're doing it in London. It's going to be March 20 and 21st, a 2-day event with, keynote speakers from Google and, the best operators in the industry. Obviously, folks from some exciting brands outside of the industry as well, like Sephora and Staples, Space NK. So we'll have all of that in Optimove Connect. We expect around 500 people. So should be like something super engaging, and typically there's not a lot of places where, CRM marketing practitioners can come in and learn and engage with their peers and, just enhance their career and become better at what they do. So this is the aim for us. And of course, from the gaming space, we'll have some executives, some exciting people. So will be really great.
Perfect. Yeah. We'll leave any links to the Optimove Connect in the description below. Pini, this wasn't how I envisaged the podcast to go, but actually, I really enjoyed it. I know it was a lot of you explaining everything and educating us, but actually that kind of works in my favor because I am quite a novice to CRM marketing, and kind of gauging this kind of first episode as an educational foundation actually worked quite well. So it worked really well. But yeah, we'll like I said, we'll do a part 2 to this in the next week or so to kind of discuss a bit more about, like I said, Optimove's performances in 2023 and kind of like the future of CRM marketing in the not so distant future, and maybe a bit more long term as well. But until then, Pini, thank you for joining us today. To our listeners, thank you for listening, and make sure you tune in to iGaming Daily tomorrow, and also keep an eye on our social media pages where we'll keep you up to date on Pini's next appearance and his follow-up appearance to this episode. But Pini, thank you very much.
Thank you, James. Thank you for having me.
Perfect. And to our listeners, thank you and goodbye.
Thank you for listening to today's iGaming Daily podcast, supported by Optimove, the #1 CRM marketing solution for the iGaming market. If you want to find out more about some of the subjects raised today, feel free to explore any of the sites in the SBC News Network or check out the latest edition of the SBC Leaders magazine. Happy reading.